I love talking about raw food because I had such an intimate experience with it a number of years ago. I was working very hard and I created a fibroid tumor the size of a 6-month pregnancy. And I went to Optimum Health Institute in Lemon Grove, California. And that's where I learned about healing raw foods. And in 2-week time, Federico, it was so amazing. That tumor shrunk from the size of a 6-month pregnancy to this small. And I knew through following healing raw foods that I could heal that on my own. And in fact, that has occurred. I never needed to have any kind of surgery or any kind of intervention at all. So I love sharing this with people because I want other people to know what's possible. The thing about raw food, to answer your question, what kind of illnesses can it heal? Really, raw food isn't the healer per se. The body is the healer. Our bodies are a miracle. They are so amazing. And if we give the body the food that supports its ability to heal, whatever the condition is, people notice a difference. And so I say, try it for yourself and see. So the question that you ask that's so brilliant is, what are healing raw foods? Because today, for example, you've probably been to many raw food restaurants. There are raw food restaurants everywhere around the world. And the whole movement in raw food has a lot of great goodness at its foundation, but most of the raw food you're going to eat in a restaurant will not be what I would call healing raw foods. Healing raw foods are very simple, and they come from the garden, and they don't have a lot of preparation involved with them. So I'm going to tell you about this place in California, Optimum Health Institute in Lemon Grove, and how we ate there. Basically, what we had in the morning was watermelon juice. Now, some people couldn't handle watermelon juice if they were diabetic or had any difficulty with high sugar content fruit. So in that case, what happened was they juiced the rind of the watermelon, and that's what they drank. But watermelon is extremely cleansing to the body, and it's a delicious way to start the morning. So at home, try it and see how your body responds. And then we would drink a fermented drink called Rejuvelac. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, no.
Well, it's a fun thing to make. You can do it with, I like to use rye berries, the whole rye kernel, and you just sprout them, cut them up a bit in a blender, and then you ferment them. I'm going to include the recipe for Rejuvelac in my blog site that we're preparing this video for, so it'll be easy for you to make. And what's great about that is, one, it has lots of B vitamins, and two, it really strengthens the flora in the body, which makes it easier for you to absorb nutrients. And raw foods are the highest in nutrient, and raw foods are the most cleansing of all the food philosophies that have been used to really support people to heal, like macrobiotics or Ayurveda. Raw food is the quickest and the most powerful. And there's only one little thing to be aware of. You need to have good digestion. And sometimes, Federico, people get so sick before they really try to shift the way they're eating, they can't digest raw foods easily. So then what I recommend is that they start with cooked foods from the garden and strengthen the body and strengthen the digestion. And then they can move into raw foods as soon as they're ready. Oh, we had this gorgeous watermelon juice for breakfast, as I said. And then we drank this Rejuvelac throughout the day. And the other thing that you find that is so powerful for healing is wheatgrass juice. and we would have 1 ounce to 2 ounces of wheatgrass juice in the mid-morning. Now, why wheatgrass juice? Why on earth would you take the time to juice the grass from wheat berries? Well, it is so powerful. And if you will look up on the web the many, many benefits of wheatgrass juice, you'll see over 100 at least, how it supports the body. In my personal experience, one thing that happened to me, I had a cavity and I was using wheatgrass juice twice a day and it healed itself. I never needed to have any kind of attention to that particular tooth. So it is amazing, and it was a great food because it cleans the body on the inside. And then we did a lot of colonics where we cleaned the intestinal tract and the bowel. And they would use wheatgrass juice at the end of the colonic for cleaning the colon from the inside. It's quite amazing how I felt after 2 weeks of eating this way and using wheatgrass juice, you know, drinking it and also using it in colonics. I felt like a child again. My body was so clean on the inside. It was just amazing. I had this energy level and this joyfulness. It was really a beautiful experience. So I encourage you to give it a go. There are so many juice bars now that offer wheatgrass juice. So all you need to do is go in twice a day. Start with a 1 ounce shot. Do not drink the chaser that they give you, because they'll give you sometimes lemon juice or they'll give you orange juice. That dilutes the potency and the power of the wheatgrass juice. When you drink wheatgrass, there's one little tip that's really important. It's very strong. Don't just chug it. Take it into the mouth in small sips and swish it through your teeth back and forth until the sweetness leaves, because it is quite a sweet flavor, and then swallow. The digestion of wheatgrass juice begins in the mouth. There are certain enzymes that it activates that are needed for it to really give you its full punch. So try wheatgrass juice. It's just amazing. And then for lunch and dinner at Optimum Health, we would have grated vegetables, raw of course. In terms of spices, hardly any. And the spices they made from dehydrated vegetables that they ground in a blender. So it just added more vegetable flavor. So a meal might look like this for lunch or dinner. We'd have, say, grated winter squash raw, a heap of that. Then we would have lots of sprouts. And they used a lot of alfalfa sprouts. They found those very cleansing. They also used like red lentil sprouts and aduki bean sprouts and occasionally garbanzo beans that were sprouted. And then we would often have half a red pepper stuffed with a fermented protein. And that is called seed cheese. And I'm going to include the recipe in this blog site so you can make it yourself. And it's made simply from sprouted sunflower and pumpkin seeds. It's my favorite recipe. So what they mean by sprouting is you basically soak them and pour the water off and add clean water. And then, like with the Rejuvelat drink, you put these seeds in a blender and with a bit of water cut them. You don't grind them to a real fine pulpiness. And then you put a netting over them in a bowl. I don't need to go into the detail. My recipe will show you. And you ferment them on the counter. When they're fermented, you drain them basically and add seasonings. Now, they didn't use much spice of any kind there. Why would you think that would be, Frederica? Why wouldn't they add paprika and different kinds of spices, cumin and coriander, etc.? Why do you think?
Because the food is already tasty enough. You don't need to add anything to it.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. And also for people, when they're really trying to regenerate and heal the body, sometimes it's hard for them to utilize those spices. So they just did it in the most pure form possible. However, in my recipe, I'm going to give you a recipe that will make the seed cheese taste a bit like tuna. It's really delicious and very high in protein. So we would have that lovely piece, and that was about it. You know, maybe another vegetable that had been grated, or zucchini spirals that looked like noodles. It was gorgeous food. It just very, very simple. And so at the end of 2 weeks, having such a shift in my body, I had great conviction about the power of raw food. And at the time, I had a restaurant serving Ayurvedic food and macrobiotics. So I returned to my restaurant and added raw food, and people loved it. Now, there's one little tip that I think is important to know. What I've learned in all of the work I've done with others about supporting the body to heal with whole foods is it's really important to learn to listen to your own body. There's no one philosophy that is ideal for everyone. And so how I approach things in learning about healing foods and sharing that information with others to support them to have a healthier lifestyle is learn from everyone that you're drawn to. And I like to go deep into the learning and try it in your own experience. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, modify it, make adjustments. And so I have used macrobiotic cooking for the basis of cooked foods. I've used Ayurveda to give variety, really, to cooked foods in a kind of yumminess that's really delicious. And then raw foods, I also use every day to support the body with a very high level of nutrient and that cleansing, quickly regenerating factor. So I've studied all of them, I've taught them, I've lived them deeply, each one on its own. And the interesting thing is they all are, in terms of philosophy, very opposite one another, those three philosophies, macrobiotics, Ayurvedic, and raw foods. So that's why I say never get stuck in a philosophy. Learn everything you can and then listen within. Pay attention to what your body speaks as you eat each food and see what works for you. But raw is the most healing. Raw is the quickest way to really affect your energy level if you have good digestion. So give it a try and see what you think. I think you'll be really pleased with the results that you have. Thank you so much, Federico, for inspiring this to occur.
Great, this is really great advice. And I wanted to ask you, is it possible for people to go 100% raw when they need to heal something about themselves?
That's a really good question. And I live in Canada, and right now you and I are in Sweden at this wonderful center learning about
education in the nature of mind.
Education in the nature of mind. It's so amazing. In colder climates like Edmonton and here in Sweden, I think being 100% raw is really difficult. I find that if you can do as much raw as the body is happy with and then add whole foods that are cooked, that's a really good way to nurture the body and support it to regenerate. But again, we're all different. If I were in California, which Bill and my husband and I lived there for a time, very easy to be 100% raw, especially in Southern California. Or if you're in tropical places, that's easy. And what actually, though, a lot of the raw foodists now are finding is that it's good to have some cooked. Even those that have lived 100% raw, that after a certain period of time, it's good to start adding cooked food. It makes a difference in the way the body responds. Now, one thing about this whole raw food movement I wanted to share that I don't think is so great for healing, in my opinion, and that is if you are eating raw food today in a lot of the raw food restaurants, they use lots of dried fruit, lots of nuts, and often agave syrup. The raw fruit and the agave feed yeast in the body. Candida, for example, which many people who are trying to heal are dealing with, whether they know it or not. Often it is a factor because it arises in the body from strong medications like antibiotics. And many people who have health issues have taken antibiotics to try to help themselves with those issues. The nuts and seeds, eating a lot of these oily nuts that are quite rich, creates a lot of mucus in the body and makes it hard for the cells to clean themselves and regenerate easily. So that's why I think it's important to understand the difference between healing raw foods and the raw food interest and enthusiasm that's happening today in many restaurants and in many places around the world.
That's absolutely great. I love your advices, Connie. I wanted to ask you, for those that feel that the illness is irreversible, like for example people with kidneys dysfunction or advanced kidneys illnesses, do you think still that the raw food healing can reverse the disease?
Well, every person is unique, and it depends on the level of, let's say, advancement often of the disease. If you catch whatever is going on quickly and begin to really support your body to regenerate with whole foods, often you can shift conditions very fast. Now, people, for example, who are dealing with cancer, what my experience is with that's a high level of toxicity. And it isn't just toxins in the body from our environment and pollutants and the food that we may have eaten. There are oftentimes a lot of emotional and mental toxicity from stresses in our lives that also need to be dealt with. So it depends on the person. But what I did when I had this large tumor, I just started studying everything that I didn't already know, because I already knew about macrobiotics and Ayurveda in helping my first husband actually heal from a condition. And I tried it on myself. I made my own experience the scientific experiment, and my body responded so quickly. And if you'd like to know more about Optimum Health, look them up. It's Optimum Health in Lemon Grove, California. It's a wonderful place to go. And also, I think my getting away from my restaurant and just being in that peaceful environment and really focused on learning about raw foods, I learned so much there. That was really healing too. So I say give it a try. You have nothing to lose. You're going to have more energy. You're going to feel better if you start to really attend to what you're eating. And then if there's, which there always are, emotional and mental stress issues that you need to deal with, you can find answers there too. And I want to do another blog site about the answers I've found about mental and emotional stability here in Sweden, and also in the US and Canada and around the world, in India, where I just returned. So I will have that coming soon.
Thank you so much, Connie. You really warm my heart and many other people's with your words. I want to ask you, together with the diet, did you also train in some ways? Did you make any physical training?
Yes, I did a lot of walking, and I had, a restaurant is extremely physical, and we did a lot of delivery, so I was on foot, and I was doing a lot of lifting and long hours, long hours. So I was very, very physical at the time, but also pushing myself to succeed because I realize now I was so afraid that I wasn't enough on some level, and I had to succeed in my life to overcome that, or kind of to cover that over. And it really impacted my health. So that was one of the major emotional stresses and mental stresses that were a part of my condition. And I've spent a lot of time and energy dealing with that mental and emotional stress, and it's just now at this point in my life that I have really found the answer. So I am so excited to share that with you in my next blog.
Beautiful. Is there any final advice that you'd like to give to those that are initiating a healing raw food diet?
Yes. Look up Optimum Health and learn what they do there. I've given you a thumbnail sketch of my experience in terms of the food. They have a cookbook you can order. It's very simple, but that can be a tool that would be helpful. And search the web. I mean, when I went there, which was 15 years ago, that was so different in terms of what was available on the web about raw food. Now there's so many sites that you can learn wonderful things from, but make sure they're not recipes that include agave or lots of dried fruit and nuts. They're just simple, whole foods from the garden. The closer we live to nature, the healthier we are. It's just that simple, really. And raw foods are a wonderful addition to a whole foods diet, and on their own can really create an impact of regeneration in the body.
Thank you so much, Connie. It is absolutely perfect. I'm really happy. And I'll see you for our next blog.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Federico.